First, I'd like to start with reiterating that the points that members have raised already, the importance of free and fair elections, and my support for moves to ensure that those eligible to vote have the informed ability to do so easily and confidently. And that confidence electoral system is where I want to focus my contribution here this evening. Confidence and trust in any government starts with the vote, and the integrity of this vote is the foundation of democracy, as Mr Owen mentioned in his contribution. And all that a fair democratic nation has to offer comes from that ability to have that confidence and trust in that vote. If this vote can't be trusted, then decision-making comes into question across all layers of government. And when voting, people need to have complete trust in the process. And this is why we should always look to tweak and improve the voting process, which in my eyes is what the UK Elections Bill is seeking to do. As the Conservative amendment submitted by my colleague Darren Miller states, elections in Wales should be free and fair. Sadly, there is evidence, though, that parts of our society do not feel free and fair when voting. And again, Mr Owen, you referred to electoral abuse not being an issue. But in the Securing the Ballot report, which looked into electoral fraud in 2016, the report found that electoral fraud was particularly prevalent and a risk in communities when individuals' right to vote in secret was at risk, with evidence of pressure being put on particularly women and young people to vote according to the will of others. And I'm sure members across this chamber would agree that it's not right that women and young people can feel pressure when voting, and this urgently needs to be addressed. This is also backed by research from, mention it again, play the game of bingo here today, the Electoral Commission, which shows that many people simply aren't confident in the security of our voting system. 66% of the public saying a requirement to show ID at polling stations would make them feel more confident. And it was only in the last debate where members across this chamber were lauding the fact that we should be listening to the popular opinion of members of the public. 66% of them would want to see voter ID at the polling station. With this information, it's important to note, as already been mentioned, that again, the Electoral Commission, an independent body, set standards for how elections should be run, are supporting voter ID. Coming on to the Welsh Government's motion, they state that voter ID will suppress voting and deny people in Wales their fundamental democratic rights. This is a bold claim, to say the least. Of course, we need to ensure that introducing voter ID works. And isn't it fantastic? There is evidence across nations that voter ID does work. And I'm surprised to hear some of the Europhiles in the room today not wanting to emulate what is happening across the continent with 47 other countries. 47 other countries in Europe having full voter ID requirements. And of course, as mentioned already today, closer to home, in the first general election after photographic ID was introduced, turnout in Northern Ireland was higher than each of England, Scotland and Wales. So coming back to the insinuation that voter ID will suppress voting and deny people the fundamental democratic rights, it clearly has had no effect in Northern Ireland. And we do have an issue in Senate elections, and we must come to face this. 46.6% of people voted in May's elections compared to 67% in UK general elections. UK government may have some good ideas here as to how we can secure voter confidence at election time. I'm aware of time, Deputy Presiding Officer, so I will move on. To conclude then, it's vitally important that we continue to increase the integrity of voting, making sure people feel safe, secure and free while voting, and ensure people can vote fairly. We have a UK Government Elections Bill backed by the Electoral Commission, backed by the public to prevent voter fraud, which successfully works across many other nations around the world. Yet we are here again, hearing the usual bashing of the UK Government by the Welsh Government. I would urge all members to reject the Welsh Government's motion and support our Conservative amendment to give those voters the safety and fairness that they deserve. Diolch yn fawr iawn.